All right, good morning and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for the second session of New England Chapter Connects in 2023. My name is Tom Modzelewski. I'm a member of the APWA New England Chapter Education Committee. Today's topic is facilities and grounds, hot topics. This will be a timely discussion amongst yourselves and a panel of facility managers sharing some of the most recent and relevant best practices. Just a couple of things before we get started. First, many thanks to our Public Works Awareness Committee, the PWAC, the New England Chapter Education Committee, and the subcommittee that puts these sessions together. These groups work extremely hard to promote the value and importance of public works and provide interesting, informative, and timely learning opportunities for our members. Also, a big shout out to our New England Chapter Connects producer, Regina Hackett, who you just saw, and the entire team at the Connecticut T2 Center. They do an amazing job producing our New England Chapter Connects program. And of course, special thanks to our sponsors for New England APWA. Without the support of our sponsors, we could not bring all the valuable programs and events to our members in the public works community. The New England Chapter Connects program was created to keep us all connected during COVID while we were isolated. We hope that you'll find these series worthwhile and informative as we continue to stay connected. Please help us help you by completing the very short survey at the conclusion of this session. Also, if you miss a session or two and you'd like to replay a session for your staff, all of our New England Chapter Connect sessions can be viewed on the chapter website. Finally, if you enjoyed today's session, please join us on May 25th at 11 a.m. for our last spring session, which will be electrification of fleet and equipment. This is sure to be a very informative and timely discussion as well, moderated by the one and only Donna Shea. Without further ado, let me introduce our moderator today, Clay Major. Clay is the Director of Facilities in the Public Buildings Division for the town of South Windsor. Clay will be moderating a fantastic panel of professionals in the facilities and grounds field. We have David Pincineau, Director of Public Works in Lexington, Massachusetts. We have Rob Antonelli, Assistant Commissioner of DPW and Parks for Worcester, Mass. We have Mickey Gorman, he's the Director of Trades at UConn here in Connecticut. And Wes Ayers, Manager of Grounds and Landscape Services, also at UConn in Connecticut. Welcome, Clay. Thank you for taking the time to moderate our discussion today. I'll hand it over to you now to begin the discussion. You're muted. Clay, you're muted.
Yep.
Thank you. Regina only told us that about 10 times and I still forgot. So thanks, Regina.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Tom. Thank you, Tom, for all you do. Thank you, Regina, for everything you guys do and putting this thing on. And there's a lot of work in the background that goes on that people don't realize. So I want to thank you too for that. So as Tom said, my name is Clay Major. I'm Director of Facilities for the Public Buildings Division here in South Windsor. And today we have an experienced and accomplished group of panelists that will be sharing some of their insights and innovative ways that they have used in their facilities and grounds on a day-to-day basis, and the procedures and practices that they've come up with in ways to assist the public. So with that being said, our first panelist is Rob Antonelli. So Rob, take it away, please.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here to meet everybody in the DPW world. I do some of this for NRPA and the National Park and Recreation Association, but thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen with some photos of some of the items that I'm going to be talking about. And so what we see here is really one of the biggest items that we deal with in the city of Worcester. So the city of Worcester is 206,000 people, second largest city in New England. We manage, I manage 62 public park facilities, a cemetery, forestry operations, as well as 18-hole golf course. So one of the biggest issues that we come into in all of our both construction and design components, as well as general maintenance, is the construction and the ability for accessibility. We view accessibility as an item that is very much inclusive of everybody. So it's not just somebody that may have a mobility issue may use a wheelchair, may use a walker, but it's mom and dad with a stroller. It's individuals that just may need that little bit of extra distance to get up, or someone who may not be able to do stairs well. So in all of our designs, that is one of the biggest issues that we're always pushing forward with and moving and trying to develop into all of our park facilities. We are challenged in the city of Worcester. We are built on 7 hills. Each of those hills has a name. And so with that, our grade change in in the majority of our facilities can be dramatic in some cases, and then maybe slight in others, but we're always challenged with topography. So the picture you see here is of a park facility that's under construction currently. You can sort of look at the ramping system that we've ended up having to build. And when we're building those, not only are we building them for the accessibility piece, but we're building them for the maintenance side of it. So how is the best way for us to maintain those, as well as make sure that we're able to give them the availability of accessing the entire facility? This park in particular has a grade change of almost 50 feet from what you would see on where we are at this point, going down to the basketball court that is at the far end, and then further down to the right corner, it drops down even further. So we've been able to really make that work. A couple of other facilities, again, the topography challenges that we deal with on a regular basis, some crisscrossing here or some switchbacking for walkways. In this particular incident, we have railings that we've included. In all honesty, we intend to try to not use railings. So if I go back to this picture, there are no railings in this location. So we do use railings where we need to, but they become a maintenance headache, tough to work around, tough for mowing and cleanup. So we try to minimize those best we can. Our standard goal in Massachusetts and with the Architectural Access Board, we're shooting for 4% of a grade and then a 2% crossflow of 1% crossflow. So the standard for Massachusetts with our Architectural Access Board is 5 and 2. But we're always looking for, because we know contractors, if you put it too specific, it's very difficult for them to get to that. So we're always trying to design it to give that flexibility for the contractors, give that flexibility for us, and really to be able to make it a lot more manageable for our residents and the visitors that come to Worcester. One of the other things you'll see here is one of our parks called Greenwood Park. Again, we built this right into the grade of the park area. So what we're doing here is trying to manipulate from a basketball court, which would be sort of behind me or behind this picture. And then to the left is a spray park. And then up to the right, you'll see that there's a tennis court. We're trying to manipulate this from a parking lot that is probably a good 1,000 feet away on the other side, to be able to make sure that the accessibility component for everybody is there. So we're always looking for different things. One of the challenges, as I stated before, with Worcester is that we have this topography issue. One of the things that we've had to build, this is the same park. One of the areas that we had to build out are parking spaces built into the park facility to be able to accommodate safely someone who may have a mobility issue, mom and dad with a stroller, grandma with a stroller, to be able to access our public park. This particular facility right here mimics the one previous to that, but you can see there's a playground straight ahead. To the right is a spray park, and then on top, that walkway that goes up top up there is a basketball court and a tennis court. So these are the things that we've been doing on our end to make that happen. One of the best things that we do on our end of it is work with our accessibility board. So the city of Worcester has a accessibility commission. I meet with them 3 times a year. It's a public meeting. I go in, I talk about projects, I talk about master planning of our parks, I talk about the maintenance side of it, what we do, how we do it. And they've really been an asset for us to really expand the need for this in all of our other public facilities. And it's really helped us in getting funding, both on the state side as well as the federal side, as well as getting city funding for projects and for maintenance purposes. One of our highlights that we have done on our end on the accessibility side are these little units here that you see. We installed these units in cooperation with our accessibility commission. I'll give you another picture here, sort of bigger picture. What you see here is a metal unit that we put on light poles and entrance areas in and around our city hall. And what this does is this really works for someone who may have a visual impairment. They're able to take their cell phone. It specifically, if I go back to the picture, it specifically sits in this little handle here and is positioned exactly where it needs to get the QR code that you see here in the middle of our symbol. That QR code then goes into a component that allows someone who has a visual impairment an understanding of how to get from that point into City Hall and into one of the offices that they have in City Hall. It's been phenomenal. The downfall to this is that QR code and that sort of symbol there, the Worcester City seal, wears after a while, and we found that we need to replace that more consistently. But the system in general has been phenomenal on our end on the accessibility side. The next thing that we've really focused in on after accessibility is security. And park security is a huge, huge thing, particularly for us in the urban core, just in general. So as we've developed new park facilities, as we've gone through renovations, we've been including this system of security cameras in all of our facilities. We've been able to, in many cases, solve individual crimes. We've solved property damage issues within a public park. We've solved accidents within the public right of way. And so we've been able to see and gather that information. All of this is streaming directly to our Worcester Police Department. I will tell everybody that this is not watched 24 hours a day. There's no way. I think right now I'm up to almost 130 cameras in our public parks. So there's just no way on top of everything else. But what they've been doing is using that as a mechanism to be able to go back or to at least tell people that this mechanism is there. So we use Siemens as our main installer, and our system that we use is called Gentex. It allows me and Worcester PD to be able to pull it up in my vehicle. I can pull it up on my phone. I can manipulate it. I can move cameras around. I can reposition cameras in an attempt to make sure that I get the areas that I'm having concerns with. So in working with our police, if there's a particular area, or my park security staff, if there's a particular area that we're having an issue with, I can set these cameras up and be able to go right into that area and be able to watch that area when I need to. PD knows that if they get a call, they can go right to those cameras as well, figure out, maybe get some understanding of what's going on there, and be able to have that. So this has really been a huge piece. I will tell everybody it is not cheap. For the most part, we're using fiber for the connection, but in some cases we're not, and we're using either Verizon or, for us, Charter, Spectrum, to bring that service to there. But we have found that it is well worth for both our residents, our visitors, and just in general of our public parks. It's been a well-received and a very important component of what we do.
Rob, great presentation. I just want to interrupt you for a second. I have a couple of questions for you as time winds down here. Thank you so much for that information. What started the Accessibility Commission? What prompted that? And what is the makeup of that commission?
So the makeup of that commission is all residents of the city of Worcester. It was developed by the city manager and the council for input on accessibility issues throughout the city of Worcester. So they do more than just like parks. They'll do sidewalk reviews. They do, they're there for particular items with buildings and public buildings, that kind of stuff. What encouraged that was really me asking to meet with them to get a better handle on what they're looking for and how can I help them, right? I'm building all these, I'm doing designs, I'm doing this stuff. I wanted to know from them what I could do to help them. And, it started off slow for a while, but after probably, the first year, we sort of got into a rhythm of looking at when we're redesigning or we're looking to do some work, how do we include them into this and how do we include their review? We've been so successful with that we have a park that is very small. Grade change is probably 50 feet. And we couldn't get accessibility from two of the entranceways. So we were able to get it at one, but the other two, we just weren't able to do it. So we actually have a waiver. So in Massachusetts, there's the Architectural Access Board. We actually asked and received a waiver with the support of the commission to not to have us have to have access from those other 2 points because we had access from this one point. And so they're willing to work with us on that. And again, it's, we're meeting with them 2 to 3 times a year, always keeping them in mind when we're building things out, always making sure that, if we can't do something physically, then we're letting them know that. If it's too costly to try to do a grade change with a switchback, we're letting them know that. But we're also saying we're including the following items. All of our playgrounds now are poured in place safety surfacing because wood mulch is great when it starts, but it's once you put it in and then once it moves, now it's not accessible anymore. So we've gone down that road. We've built restroom buildings where, we put sinks and needed areas into the accessible bathroom area. So we've done all of that with the guidance of them, and they've really helped us in the long term to try to make things happen. You're muted.
Thank you again. That's good stuff to know. I mean, obviously, from my perspective, I have that challenge as well. And I think that's something that I'm actually going to look into because it's so worthwhile. There's a lot of people that want to know what you're doing. We just did a ramp at Town Hall not too long ago, and some people thought it could be positioned differently. And having a committee and a consensus really helps, I think, everybody in that process of deciding on projects. So that's great. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you. The last item that I had just quickly, I know I don't want to take everyone's time, is just dog parks. Dog parks have been a major issue for us in Worcester. The picture you see here right now is of our largest and our most used dog park. It's pretty much dirt. We've tried grass. This is what we get. You'll see it here as well, and in this picture. So what we've done in communications with the Stanton Foundation, which is a foundation that's been giving money for dog parks. And so we're actually going to end up transferring all of our dog parks from sort of grass to a Keystone Ricestone. So Ricestone would be for our smaller dogs. Keystone would be for our larger dogs. Just because I just can't maintain this. Like I'm getting complaints that the dogs are all muddy after it rains, and we're not giving them the surface isn't great. So we're going to try this. I don't know if this is the real answer, to be very honest with everybody, but we're going to go down this road this coming summer and transfer all of this to a Keystone Ricestone component in an attempt to see if this works better overall. I was just in Charleston, South Carolina last week on vacation and happened to go by a couple of their dog parks. My wife yelled at me because I was taking pictures, but I said, that's just what we do in public works and parks. I mean, that's just what happens, right? We see something, we take a picture of it, and we try to, use best practices and see what works and what doesn't. But they use Keystone Ricestone component down there. Looked really well. Looked like it worked well. We do have accessibility into there, into pads. So, it's not fully accessible, but at least in those areas, we're getting a little bit better use. So at some point, I'll be happy to report back to let you know how that goes. But it's definitely a challenge on the dog park side when it comes to the servicing. And then the other thing is amenities. So you'll see this facility doesn't have any amenities. We look to try to add amenities where we can when we have the space. And, our dog owners are really pushing for us to do more. But we'll be adding some of those as well in this process. But Clay, that's the end of mine, unless there's any further questions or that, and I'll stop sharing now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate it. I don't see anything in the chat, so we're going to go ahead and move on to.
Can I just step in? I want to give a shout out to Rob for mentioning the thinking about the maintenance of what we're installing out there every day, because a lot of times when things are designed, they're a horror show when we have to maintain them or remove snow. So that was good to hear that, we're not the only ones that try to incorporate that in all our designs also. So thanks, Rob.
Yeah, so Wesley, do you want to go up next since you're already on? Or do you want me to get Dave to go first? Wes, can you hear me?
It looks frozen. Either way,
All right, Dave. It's all you, Dave.
All right, I'll take it. And I'll be calling you, Rob. We just got funded for a dog park, so I'll be giving you a call on that. Let me just get the screen share here. Okay, so I'm gonna, my name is David Pinsino. I'm the Public Works Director in Lexington, Mass. Been involved in grounds for over 32 years. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the challenges that we've had with our grounds maintenance program and some of the hot topics that are out there right now. So I'll start off with irrigation. Many of you, we had that severe drought last year. I guess fortunately in Lexington, we're on the Mass Water Resources Authority. So they did not institute a water ban for us, although we did a voluntary water restriction throughout town. But, lack of water in any kind of landscape, whether it's turf, your landscape plants, definitely has an effect with the extreme heat and then the lack of water to get those plants to grow so that they're healthy and make maintenance a lot easier. Dealing with water bans, the community that I live in Seekonk, Mass, they don't even wait to see if there's a drought or not. They May 1st, they institute a water ban. Every other day, you can only water early morning or early evening, and that goes until September. So, a lot of communities have to deal with that. And then how do you get these things where you're trying to maintain, whether it be a town hall lawn, we have the Battle Green here in Lexington that we have to keep well maintained for visitors, and then athletic fields into that mix. So for playability. So, those are some of the challenges that we have. What's become a lot more prevalent lately is water quality. And that's everything from your pH that you're putting out onto the landscape plants or your turf. So you do want to get a handle on what that is, know your water source. But there's a lot of other chemicals now that are out there that are affecting the landscapes. That could be in your water if you're on wells, or you're not quite sure where your water system is coming from. So irrigation is a big part of what we do in grounds maintenance. Another topic that we have to manage is the pesticide fertilizer use. So following the federal laws, state laws, local regulations, what you can and can't do. We've had pushes in Lexington to go to an all organic program. And there's a number of reasons why we can't do that. Both in response for athletic fields, but also as I mentioned, our Battle Green, which is the pride of Lexington, that has to be green, well-maintained and ready to go year round with the, thousands of visitors that area receives. So it's working with your local boards of health, local sustainability people, and seeing what you can and can't do, but knowing what those regulations are and having certified people to carry those out. A lot of times that comes with misinformation. Everything from, using a spray rig as opposed to granular. They think you're putting something out that's going to be harmful to them and the environment. So it's really being ahead of that. Who controls that narrative? So those are some of the things that you have to look at. And then, as I mentioned, the expectations. We look at all of our areas safety first. If you have healthy growing lawns, that's going to lead to safety. If you have healthy landscapes, again, in athletic fields, it's playability, and then the aesthetics of those areas can definitely be, impacted by the things that you do. Some of the other challenges that we've been facing, we've just gone through our town meeting, and the big topic was synthetic turf that we're looking to replace. We have 4 synthetic fields in town. We have over 20 plus natural grass fields. And what we do is look at the synthetic fields as a tool to take some of the edge off of the use, but also now we can maintain all those other fields as natural grass. So we look at them as a tool to help us out, but there's a lot of information coming through about the infill materials, issues with crumb rubber, issues if you went straight sand, and some of the organic materials that are out there. So we've been told now we can't use the crumb rubber anymore in our community. So we're going to have to look at some of those alternatives that are out there, and I'll show that in a slide that's coming up. A lot of concerns with heat on synthetic turf. Fortunately for us, we don't have them in any stadium areas outdoors. They're in wide open spaces. Heat is a concern, but it's not as prevalent as, say, if we were in Texas or down south somewhere where heat is a real factor on those types of surfaces, especially with the crumb rubber. PFAS has become another big issue throughout communities and throughout, not just synthetic turf, water sources, all over the place. We now are being asked to make the manufacturers of the synthetic turf certify that they are PFAS free. And basically what that means is they have to test for all of the regulated PFAS chemicals right now and make sure none of those are used in the process of producing that synthetic turf. And we have to have that certificate and then go from there. The other thing that we're being made to adhere to is the disposal. So as we take that old carpet off, when we go to redo the one of the fields, where is it going and what's happening to it? Is it being reused? Some of them are. Is it being recycled? The US has been a little slow to get recycling plants for this synthetic material, although there are a couple that are on the horizon. So we're going to have to certify where these materials go after that field is taken up. So a lot of things to consider when you're looking at synthetic turf. The other area that's really affecting us right now is sustainability. And that goes everything from, as I mentioned a little bit with the fertilizer pesticide issue, but everything from grounds equipment. There's a lot of pressure about noise, emissions, things like that. We do have a noise bylaw in town. So that, hampers our abilities, the emissions part of it, and just using those fossil fuels. So looking at grounds equipment, that's a big one that they've been pushing us on. Although I will relate, we looked at a overall in DPW and an electric sweeper and an electric trash pickup truck. And both of those were double the cost for electric than your standard diesel. And we actually brought it to the powers to be, and they voted not to go electric at this time with those two vehicles because of the cost. Coupled with that, we would have had to upgrade our building with about $200,000 of electrical work. So, but it's out there. People are pushing for this. It's something that you've got to consider definitely in your program. And in next month, I'll talk more about our grounds program with electrification of our equipment, but we have worked some of that into the mix. And then tree planting. We have a very aggressive tree committee. And really looking, we just had a canopy study done in town, which we actually came out better than we thought. We're at about a 60% canopy cover, but there's a push to drill down and really look at the canopy that's happening along our urban streets, suburban streets. So it's where can you plant trees? Where's the funding coming for that? Is it the right location? So things like that you have to be aware of, some challenges. So we have the challenges. What we look at is, okay, how do we combat some of those challenges that we have? We got funded at last year's town meeting to go ahead and start switching all of our irrigations to the smart irrigation system. So, nobody wants to see in a heavy rainstorm, the town sprinklers running at an athletic field or at town hall. So really looking at, how we can smartly use the water that we have available to use and get it to the plants that need it without waste, doing irrigation audits, making sure the irrigation is not watering out into a parking lot. Simple things like that, adjusting your systems and really taking a yearly look at those, not just a startup and a shutdown for that. Part of that is looking at, are there drought and disease tolerant plants and grasses that you can use? Right plant, right place. That's a major piece of what you want to try to do. Don't try to grow something that isn't conducive to growing in that space you're trying to stick it in. Just because it may look nice, it won't look nice for long if it's not in the right condition. So look at that. There's a lot more. They're doing a lot more with drought tolerance. Disease resistance on turf grasses. And I know there's a lot that landscape plants that will lend itself to that. So you definitely want to look at that. Organic fertilizers, as I mentioned, people think even fertilizers are going to be harmful. And really it's to try to get, an active growing healthy turf. You will reduce your use of pesticides. You will reduce the amount of water you need. You'll reduce a number of factors that help that, but you need that turf to be actively growing and healthy. So fertilization, we are able to, I'll use our Battle Green for an example. We go with a regular fertilizer first thing in the spring because April 19th is Patriots Day. So we need that turf to kick and be popping and ready for that event. After that, we have to maintain that green state, but then we can start mixing in the slow release organic fertilizers. So it's, we've been able to promote our program, again, working with our Board of Health and Sustainability, that this is how we have to operate. On an athletic field, we rarely use organic fertilizers because of the use that it gets and the need to keep that turf knit and healthy growing. But some of our outlying areas, we can go with more of an organic program. So it's really looking at those things and you controlling that narrative, doing your IPM program. We can tolerate clover, dandelions, things like that, 10, 15 feet off of the edge of a soccer field. And, as long as we're mowing it, we don't need to go and eradicate it. It's part of the landscape. But the soccer field, that's where athletes are going to make an impact and they need safety and playability on there. Meet with your stakeholders that are out there that you deal with every day. And it's everything from your garden clubs to your select boards, the governing bodies. I take the chair of the select board and the town manager at least once a year on a ride through the facilities, just to show them, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, here's what we need to do, here's what the resources that we need. and here's what, we got the funding and here's what we can do. So get them involved, and they'll be more helpful as you're trying to do your maintenance programs. I mentioned looking at different infill materials for synthetic turf. We've added quick couplers around all of our synthetic turf fields. So if we ever needed to put water out, we could do that as a matter of course. Looking at those different requirements, really vet the manufacturers and the contractors that are coming in to do this work for you. Look at field use policies. We worked with our high school athletic department and the Mass Interscholastic Athletic Association on a heat policy, so that we won't put people out on a synthetic turf and I don't have the number in front of me, but if the heat reaches a certain index, that will just say that field's closed for for that particular day. Looking at electric equipment, and again, those tree planting programs. So I'll just show you a couple of slides that I have. These are some of the electric pieces of equipment that we use, the mower and our string trimmer. I will say one thing, the string trimmers, we got our crew to buy into that. One, they're a little more maneuverable. Two, they don't have to carry mixed gas cans all over the place. They're not breathing in fumes, and the noise is greatly reduced. So at first our staff wanted the power of the regular gas powered equipment, but we were able to show them this works just as effectively, and it's better for them. And in turn, it's better for the areas where we're using them, for the public and the people using the facilities. This is just a chart, again, looking at all of the different infill materials that are out there. This one had crumb rubber, but the coconut, the cork. So we're researching all of these materials now to put in our specifications now that project got approved, but eliminating the crumb rubber. So there's a couple of other different, there's a Brox material that's on the market now that we're looking at as more of a organic infill for these to meet the requirements that the town has now placed on us in order to keep using these types of fields. And then just again, swapping out to our smart irrigation systems. They've got sensors, so the systems are designed that if it heavy rains today, it may not come on or put water on for 3 days later, because there's enough moisture in that soil that it's not going to call for that water. So you're not wasting water, you're using it more effectively. With us, even though we're on town water and I oversee our enterprise fund, we still have to transfer money and pay for that water because we get it from MWRA. So really, it's helping us with cost as well as being efficient and effective. We're not overwatering the turf or the plants, and we're not, watering when we shouldn't be in the middle of a rainstorm. So it's been a very effective way for us to do that. And that's all I had for slides. So I'd be happy if there's any questions to go on. And before that, Clay, I'll just mention too, Rob mentioned about the accessibility.
Yes.
So we have a belfry that used to be on our Battle Green. They moved it for some reason up this steep hill and set it up there. And there's a stone stair walking path. We're never going to make that accessible to get people up to the top of that. So we worked with our Commission on Disabilities, and we actually created to the side of that. We took a couple trees out, trimmed some trees, put up message kiosks, and created a seating area that people with disabilities can now view that belfry and kind of get that experience. And the Commission on Disabilities was ecstatic.
Oh, I bet.
Because they knew we would never be able to make it work, but we gave them a similar experience without having to be right at the base of that. So
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic. Great. That's a great idea. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. I do have one question for you though, just about the narrative and changing the narrative. I know you said before, whether you're spraying or putting on granular, everybody has an opinion on what they think is happening. How do you change that narrative to the public? Because that can't be an easy thing to do with, all the people that want to know what you're doing when they drive by, when you're fertilizing or seeding or whatever you're doing.
Yep. So what we do is when we put our turf maintenance program together, we share that with the school department. We share that with the recreation committee, recreation department. We'll send a copy to the select board and the Board of Health. And we'll meet with those groups as well and take them through, here's why we're doing what we're doing, what we're looking for. And we find that having that communication, they may still press us on certain things, but we have that open communication, and we're able to explain, if you want quality this, here's what we need to do. The other thing that we did is we categorized all of our facilities. We use an ABCD rating, not for how well they're maintained, but for the use that they get and the impact that they have on the community. So we can do things a lot differently in a D area, which may be a roadside leading into a park. It just has to be neat and groomed. We don't have to go do pesticides or even irrigate it, things like that. So by bringing them that information and having that open discussion, they're more understanding. Like I said, we do get pressed on certain things, but we're able to have an explanation for that.
Yeah, fantastic. It sounds like education is really the turning point for you guys to get things done, and that's huge, especially in the public's eye, right?
Yes.
So thank you, Dave, so much. I appreciate your presentation and your information. It was great. Thank you, Wesley, and Mickey. You're both up if you're ready.
Yep, I'm gonna share my screen. Tell me if I'm doing this right, because
Sure. Between the both of you, you got about 14 minutes. So I got a timer on you.
okay.
While Wesley's figuring out that, I'm just going to give you a quick idea of what we have on campus for underground utilities. We have we'll start with the chilled water piping system. We have 3.4 miles of that. We have electrical conduit systems, 5 miles. Underground electrical cables, 15.8 miles. Reclaimed water, 2.3 miles. Sanitary sewer, 30.4 miles. Steam, 9.4 miles. Steam condensate, the same, 9.4 miles. Stormwater, we have 42.6 miles. Telecommunication, duct bank and cables, 52.8 miles. And we got about 1.5 miles of utility tunnel, and water, domestic water, is 50.2 miles. So we got a lot of stuff underground there.
Wow.
That we deal with daily. Wes is going to show you some pictures of stuff that is actually happening now too. So it could be live.
All right, Wes, you need to go to launch it, because we're seeing the file and not the presentation.
Actually,
Oh,
I'm seeing the presentation.
You go to slideshow, please. Go to slideshow up top. It's going to be up on your control bar. It goes file, home, insert, draw, design, and there should be a button with slideshow, right? Push that. Push on slideshow, please.
Sure.
There it is. Perfect.
That
Nope.
work?
No.
Nope.
No.
You're going to go to slideshow, click
Yeah,
on that,
I'm-
and then you got to hit start from the beginning.
Just stop it. Not really my strong suit here.
That's all right. We'll get you.
We're good.
So-
We're good.
When I'm on over slideshow and it's just not letting me do
All
it.
right, do me a favor, get out of that design thing. So if you go up to slideshow,
Yeah,
so you push on slideshow, it's telling you to go from start from the beginning. Like you got to click on it.
yeah, I'm trying. So.
Hmm.
Is it doing anything? Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, you're in design view.
Yeah, it won't let me.
Will you be able to go through the slides in design view or no?
Yep. All right, we'll just go with what you got.
Let's.
Yeah. That'll work. We can all see it, so that's good. We can all just it's a
Yeah.
little smaller, no big deal.
So Wes, bring that back up into your design, and we'll try to go through the slides that way.
Yeah. Okay. Now there's nothing there.
Oh, boy.
While you're doing that, what was the first slide you had up?
Okay, so pretty much what we're gonna show is, we recently purchased, some brine equipment. We found that, we can pre-treat during the business hours, which is nice. We don't have to come in a couple hours before a storm. Doesn't work for every storm. We had a lot that started as rain this year, so that was difficult for us. It would only work if it started as snow, but we found that the storms we had where we could use it, it was just as effective as throwing rock salt before a storm. Used about 20, I think less than 25% to treat the same area.
Wow.
And it's still, we would have trouble with like the big loaders, the tires slipping if we don't pre-treat an area. I was a little worried that we'd still have that, but we had no problems with it. They got good traction. So it was a little expensive to start, but I think within, 2 to 3 years, it should pay for itself. Next year, we want to expand it to sidewalks. We just have it for roads and parking lots right now, but we'd like to expand the sidewalks and entryways and maybe get the custodians out there with pump sprayers and they can do the stairs, entryways, things like that. We have a lot of eyes on us because, salt is not good for the environment. It's not good for us. It's not good for the concrete. So a lot of people always asking questions of what we're putting down. So we're trying to adjust. When I got here, the guy before me was using like 5,500 tons of salt a year. We got it down to around 2,100. This year, I think we used like 1,200 just because it was, a fluke of a year. But
Yeah, for sure.
so, reducing that, our waterways are monitored by a professor that we have here. So he measures the conductivity of the streams coming out of campus, and you can see a definite drop off through the year. So it's working.
We definitely have different levels of environmental police, especially being on a college or university campus. So it gets cumbersome sometimes, but it's good though. And in a lot of ways, it keeps us in line.
How do you fight the deteriorating the concrete versus I need to keep safety in line here? How do you balance those two?
Yeah, well, so a lot of it is like I said, he was using so much before. A lot of it is past damage, but once it opens up, it's in there. You're not getting it out. It's a tough balance. You still have to make it safe. There's really not much you can do. We put down as part of the projects, they have to use salt guard. And we've done that on some of the sidewalks too. It helps, it doesn't last long. The plows, I'm pretty sure the plows just kind of rub it off the surface as they go, and it's kind of expensive too. We try that and mostly just educating the guys, you don't have to salt it every time. Salt it, let it sit, let it do its job. There's still some traction under there.
Right.
So this year we're doing a little different. Wes has got a promotion and he's responsible for all the sidewalks, not only the salt, but now he's going to be responsible for replacing sidewalks. So I'm hoping he's going to use a lot less salt. So we're going to see if that theory pans out next year.
Nice. Nice.
One of the pictures Wes was going to show there. Wes, was that it for salt on the brine? I don't want to.
Yeah, that was all I was going to say on the brine.
Yep. So one of the pictures he was going to show you was a bookstore that we're dealing with right now. We lost chilled water line under the road, and he had some good pictures of it. But we have our own crew out there. We excavated all ourselves. We take up the asphalt. We expose it. We got other crews. We've got HVAC crews that'll actually run the piping and replace what's needed inside the buildings. So it's really, with all the different shops that we're responsible for, it's a turnkey operation. We got to organize that and kind of click it all together, but it all seems to work, and we did do a temporary tie-in. We popped out a window and popped out a 6-inch pipe to the bookstore, and we got it tied in outside just to so we know it's going to get hot soon. before we can get the final solution done. But at least they'll have chilled water for the summer, you know, and then we'll stage it in and we'll get that repair done as quick as possible. Realistically, it may not happen till August, but we'll figure that out as it goes along. But Wes can step in and fill you in on anything of that, but Wes is responsible for all the athletic fields too, and there was some talk about that earlier, you know, and I know that keeps him busy. He's
Yeah. So we have, here they want to use the athletic. I tried to get the PowerPoint back up. I don't know what I did. I erased the whole thing, I think. It's just a blank screen now.
No
so.
worries. No worries.
I think this is working. We'll wing
Yeah,
it.
let's
We're
go
good.
with it.
Yeah,
Sure.
so they want to use it all winter, you know, that's kind of when the kids are here in the winter. So we have to plow the fields. We have only 2 natural fields. They're the practice football fields. We have an indoor practice football facility that all the teams kind of share, even though football gets mad, tries to kick them out. And then we have the baseball, softball, and a rec field. So we have to plow softball and baseball so they can get out early. We use it's a big push box with like pretty much like a 2.5-inch pipe welded to the bottom of it so it doesn't tear anything up. 2 tool cats, and we got to push everything out, and then we move it out with loaders, and then we try to keep it on pavement because, you know, with the crumb rubber like you were talking about, it just, we have to be able to keep that where we can collect it. Sometimes it's reusable, usually it's not because it's got all kinds of other stuff mixed in with it, but we don't want it going down into the drains and filling up the catch basins and stuff like that. So we got to kind of contain it. But that's a big challenge trying to, you know, they'll say, oh, we definitely got to go out. It's going to be 40 degrees and we'll clean everything off. And then, never mind. We're not going to use it. So
It must make it very challenging. How do you maintain the fields when, you know, sometimes it gets muddy, especially when you're pushing snow and it gets wet, the sun comes out. How do you balance that between pushing the snow off, making the field ready, and yet not damaging the field for, you know, the spring and summer use?
yeah, so it works pretty good. I don't know. We have, you know, the big wide turf tires. It doesn't get soupy on the artificial turf. The softball field though has a challenge. The coach it was going to be all synthetic turf. There was a change order when they were doing the project because the coach wanted a natural infield. So we have it's called Hilltopper. It's like a synthetic clay, but it's still a natural surface more or less. So we have to tarp that. And then if it snows, we have to go in with shovelers, shovel it off the tarps, and then clear the rest of the field from there. So that one's frustrating, especially if they don't use it after we go through all that.
I'm sure.
A lot of money that's wasted.
I'm sure.
A lot of money. So some of the other pictures that Wes had was, we're going to show you some of the damage that was done on campus during the, I'm not sure if we can call them riots, but, you know, we had after
Mostly
a
peaceful.
basketball win. What was it called?
Mostly peaceful.
Peaceful. So we're still busy, you know, replacing, we got a good grip on it now, but we had open houses right after that happened. So we had to use all of the light poles alone. We had to dig up our old graveyard of whatever we stocked over the last, or kind of took off other projects and we piled up over the years. So some of them were pretty bad looking. And you know, I had a paint crew go up there and start painting them as soon as we were installing them, pulling new wires. A lot of glass was broken. A lot of garbage cans were used like on the logging rides that people do when they're walking them down the streets. And we never found a bunch of them, I think, right? They'll probably turn up in dorm rooms, we're thinking.
Yeah,
when we get
there's
inside
like
there.
6 small trees that were ripped.
They were pulling Wes's trees out left and right. But yeah, just for that to kind of happen and not be geared for that type of work and have to accommodate and change gears and get that presentable, the campus presentable for open houses was quite a chore. So
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, never mind the safety aspects of not having lighting on a whole street, you know, but we got it pulled off, and it's something we're all geared to do. Like we said, we have a lot of utilities. We're out there repairing them constantly. UConn makes their own power. We bring in, we have a cogen plant. We use steam to make power. We also use the steam to heat the buildings and we use steam to make chilled water. I mean, it's a pretty neat process what we have here on campus.
That's amazing. That's
yep.
amazing. I'd love to get more detail on that down the road. I mean, that
Sure.
alone sounds like a day tour to me.
Oh,
But
Yeah.
The cogen director would love to he loves giving tours. So we can probably set something up down the road.
Fantastic. Love to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. We got a lot of tunnels. We got a lot to see.
Nice. Love to see it. So I think we're just about out of time. Regina, I think you have a couple things you want to share before we win this. Thank you so much, Wes. And Mickey, thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You there, Regina?
Yep, I'm all set.
Okay.
So thank you everyone for joining us today. If everyone could just take a moment, we put a QR code up. We just have a evaluation form. If you can just take like a minute or two to fill that out so we can get your feedback, we'd really appreciate it. Do remember that we do have on May 25th, electrification of municipal public works fleets and equipment webinar. And I will pop that information in the chat box as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you, everybody, for joining us.